Thank you. I'm so happy to be here on another Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Day. How many of you go each year or are going to go this year to the Armory on Monday for the wonderful program there? In case you haven't been, it's a great thing to do. It's one of my favorite times in our community when people of all different diversities come forth, and it's a deep and powerful time. So it's always great to be here on the Sunday right before that. Today I want to talk to you about two of my favorite beings that have lived in our times. Of course, Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn. They knew each other and influenced each other's lives deeply. So I look forward to sharing with you about that. We'd like to sing many songs today that came out of the Civil Rights Movement, and that's fun because they're gospel-type songs. So without further ado, let's get into one of those songs with Donna and Richard leading us. Thank you.
This one is really familiar, and if you want to stand up, you're welcome to, and just feel the Mama Earth beneath your feet.
To the Martin Luther King Day meeting? No, we don't know? Okay, it's a great thing to know. So we're going to sing This Little Light of Mine, knowing that the little light is in you, and me, and each one of us. Okay, so here we go.
Let it shine, let it shine.
songs from the Civil Rights Days just strike a chord, don't they? Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Hatred paralyzes life, love releases it. Hatred confuses life, love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, love illuminates it." Hence this little light of mine. We're so blessed to have leaders like Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn that set before us a bright light. And there are people too, each of them, who said things to us like, "You are the light, and we must be the peace." So as we enter into our sacred space today, be feeling into your life, the passage that you've been on through this life as it relates to these great lights in our midst, because it's all interwoven. We're all interbeing, and the same things that they experienced, we have experienced in our own microcosm. So it'll be interesting today to see how, as we talk about these two great lights, how highlights of your life come forth too, in your call. What's our next song, Donna? "We Shall Overcome." Do you have memories of "We Shall Overcome," having sung "We Shall Overcome" at different times? One of my best memories of it is when I attended Glide Memorial Church in San Francisco with Cecil Williams. Has any of you been to Glide Memorial? And they really rock out on their songs with a giant choir, and everybody in the whole place holds hands and sings "We Shall Overcome" every week. At least they did for a while through those years I was there. And sometimes we change it to the present tense. That, "We shall overcome today," or today. And they always did that. So that sense of having an overcoming spirit in our lives, an overcoming attitude. Let's feel the energy of that overcoming attitude as we sing this together. We may want to stand up, and at some point you may even want to hold hands.
Today
Natalie Tyler was here with us and speaking about her personal experiences with meeting with Martin Luther King. And she passed away this past summer, so she's up there with him now. I've asked Karen to come and read a poem of Thict Nat Hahn's for us, and we talk about being peace. This poem gives us Thict Nat Hahn's version of how we can be peace.
Call me by my true name. Don't say that I will depart tomorrow. Even today, I am still arriving. Look deeply. Every second, I am arriving to be a bud on a spring branch, to be a tiny bird with still fragile wings, learning to sing in my new nest, to be a caterpillar in the heart of a flower, to be a jewel hiding itself in a stone. I still arrive in order to laugh and to cry, to fear and to hope. The rhythm of my heart is the birth and death of all that is alive. I am a mayfly, metamorphosing on the surface of the river, and I am the bird that swoops down to swallow the mayfly. I am the child in Uganda, all skin and bones, my legs as thin as bamboo sticks. And I am the arms merchant, selling deadly weapons to Uganda. I am the 12-year-old girl, a refugee on a small boat, who throws herself into the ocean after being raped by a sea pirate. And I am the pirate, my heart not yet capable of seeing and loving. My joy is like spring, so warm it makes flowers bloom all over the earth. My pain is like a river of tears, so vast it fills 4 oceans. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up and the door of my heart will be left open, the door of compassion. Please call me by my true names, so I can hear all my cries and laughter at once, so I can see that my joy and pain are one. Please call me by my true names, so I can wake up and the door of my heart will be left open, the door of compassion.
Thank you, Firefly, for coming and singing this perfect song that goes along with Thict Nat Hahn's poem about how we've got to take down the walls in our hearts so that we can even know ourselves and know all of our true names and know each other and be able to know all the names that you have and that I have and call out those names, all of them, with compassion. Here's a great song that Firefly has that's very similar to Thict Nat Hahn.
This song is called Break Down the Barriers, and it's written by my dear friend Shiloh Circle. There are many songs and stories of peace and love and light. This one's about the hidden truths that keep us in the night. With wounds from our childhood, with egos big and tough, we all have internal battles that get fought with those we love. We've got to break down the barriers, tear down the walls, unveil the darkness that lurks within us all. If we want to utilize these blessings of peace and love and light, then let's stop pretending that we have nothing nothing to hide. Power is such a tricky game, so easy to abuse. Some ignore that it's there at all, and then they get used. You know there's not one standing who has not told a lie. We manipulate for our own aims, yet for truth our hearts do cry. They cry to break down the barriers, tear down the walls, unveil the darkness that lurks within us all. If we want to utilize these blessings of peace and love and light, then let's stop pretending that we have nothing to hide. You say that you want world peace, you won't support no war. Then you turn and you fight with your family, and there's war in your core. Whenever we feel threatened, our defenses get raised high. Let's stop and turn to face our fears and ask ourselves why. Why don't we break down the barriers, tear down the walls, unveil the darkness that lurks within us all? If we want to utilize these blessings of peace and love and light, then let's stop pretending that we have nothing to hide. What do you think would happen if we revealed our darker selves? We'd find that yes, we are one in the light, but we're one in the dark as well. Now wouldn't that be a comfort to know you're not alone? When we reveal our shameful secrets through the dark, the light has shone. Now it's time to break down the barriers, tear down the walls, unveil the darkness that lurks within us all. If we want to utilize these blessings of peace and love and light, then let's stop pretending that we have nothing to hide. Let's reveal our truest selves. With no shame, we'll stand with pride.
Thict Nat Hahn said, "Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety." Earth will be safe when we feel in us enough safety. I can really hear that in Firefly's song, that we've got to feel enough safety to reveal ourselves. And in the Journey to Completion work that I do, I say that we're creating a safe container so that we can reveal our true selves and find in that a healing and a deep connection and peace, inner peace. I'm lucky enough to have spent a lot of time with Thict Nat Hahn in the late 80s and early 90s. And one of the things that he always taught the groups that he got together with was walking meditation. Have any of you done walking meditation before? Yeah. So you know it's like a really slow-paced walking where each of your feet are very consciously touching the earth. And so he has this little poem called Kiss the Earth. It says, walk and touch peace every moment. Walk and touch happiness every moment. Each step can bring you a fresh breeze. Each step can make a flower bloom if you kiss the earth with your feet. Bring the earth your love and happiness with each step. I like that, don't you? Bring the earth your love and happiness with each step. The earth will be safe when we feel safe in ourselves. I was thinking about having us do walking meditation today, but then I was thinking, how would it happen actually? It's challenging. At other times we have done it, but it is a little logistically challenging to do it. But maybe when you go out into your day today and you take a walk in the park, you can do some walking meditation in honor of remembering Thict Nat Hahn and kissing the earth with your feet that way. I've asked Kaza to come and read another poem by Thict Nat Hahn that's called Our True Heritage. Our True Heritage.
The cosmos is filled with precious gems. I want to offer a handful of them to you this morning. Each moment you are alive is a gem, shining through and containing earth and sky, water and clouds. It needs you to breathe gently for the miracles to be displayed. Suddenly you hear birds singing, the pines chanting. See the flowers blooming, the blue sky, the white clouds, the smile and marvelous look of your beloved. You, the richest person on earth, who have been going around begging for a living, stop being the destitute child. Come back and claim your heritage. We should enjoy our happiness and offer it to everyone. Cherish this very moment. Let go of the stream of distress and embrace love, life fully in your arms.
I heard Joan Baez sing this song in 1988, and I was blown away for the rest of my life. So just think of anything that you're a slave to, and just let it go. Oh, freedom. Oh, oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Everybody up. No more killing. No more killing. No more killing over me. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. No more hunger. No
Well, Dr. Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn knew each other. As I said, they had a big influence on one another's lives. When Thict Nat Hahn finally did meet Dr. King in person, he said, "The moment that I met him, I knew that I was in the presence of a holy man." Well, Martin Luther King died at the young age of 43, and Thict Nat Hahn has lived on to be in his late 80s.
Wow.
But I hear he's in critical condition right now in a hospital in France. So I thought it was a good time to honor him too. These two allies in peace, from opposite sides of the world, different religions, and yet they came together at a crucial time to change us, change our world. We often mention how King was influenced by people like Thoreau and Tolstoy and Gandhi and Jesus. In formulating his nonviolent civil disobedience strategies, he drew on all these people. But did you know how much Martin Luther King was also influenced by Thict Nat Hahn? Did you know that? No, that hasn't been spread very widely, so I think it's a good thing to talk about. Next to the Dalai Lama, Thict Nat Hahn is probably the best known and most respected Buddhist master in the world today. Right? He was born in central Vietnam in 1926. That makes him 89. Thict Nat Hahn was ordained a Buddhist monk at the age of 16. And then in 1961, he first came to the United States to study and to teach at Columbia and at Princeton.
Wow.
I figured that I was 35 at that point. In 1963, though, the war was going on in Vietnam, and Thict Nat Hahn's monk colleagues called out to him and said, "Please come back, you've got to help us back here." So after returning to Vietnam in 1964, Thict Nat Hahn founded something called the School of Youth for Social Service. It was akin to the Peace Corps, and it involved sending teams of young people out into the villages and the countryside to set up schools where the schools had fallen apart, and health clinics, and later to rebuild the villages that had been burned. So while back in Vietnam, Thict Nat Hahn also helped lead one of the great nonviolent resistance movements in recent history, based on Gandhian principles. So he was really doing the same thing over there that was happening with the civil rights movement here. He founded the Thict Nat Order, spelled Tiephen, and I'm a member of that order. I joined it, as maybe some of you did too. And this claimed to respond to the violence that was going on all around him, to the burgeoning hatred and intolerance and suffering, the crucible of war and devastation, and the daily experience of the Vietnamese people, to respond to it with neutrality, with equanimity. It's a big order, huh? The Tiephen Order's struggle for peace involved maintaining the strictest neutrality, which meant not taking sides, either on the communist or the non-communist side. But this typically left both sides annoyed, and sometimes even furious at Thict Nat Hahn and the Tiephen Order. They weren't taking sides. In the midst of the war and all of the contention, they refused to ever take sides. Because for Thict Nat Hahn and his followers, neither of the warring parties in Vietnam actually were speaking for the people of Vietnam. Isn't that often the case in a war? When you think about the wars in countries all over the world, where's the voice of the people that are living there? According to Thict Nat Hahn, the Vietnamese people felt that they'd been effectively excluded from participation in the determination of their own country's future. So he took on the inspiration from Gandhi, and he developed a range of nonviolent forms of struggle, including fasting and using literature and poetry and art to change conversations and to bring up deeper feelings. Thict Nat Hahn's commitment to nonviolence was thoroughgoing and was based on the realization, as Gandhi had insisted, that the means and the ends are one. What does this mean? The means and the ends are one. For Thict Nat Hahn, violence begins when we divide reality into two camps, right in that moment. That's where violence begins. In the poem, Call Me by My True Names, you could hear that, you know. So very often, even we place ourselves typically in the good guys' camp. Thict Nat Hahn says we have to stop this kind of thinking altogether. Ooh. To extinguish our own violence, we need to stop dismissing people, anybody, as our enemies, even those who act reprehensibly and violently. So as Thict Nat Hahn puts it, if we want to work for peace, but we're doing it out of anger, then we will never succeed. Peace is not just an end. Peace is the means. It can never come about through non-peaceful means. In other words, peace is the way as well as the end. The practice of nonviolence for Thict Nat Hahn was not a matter of some prefabricated technique either. The point was to have the very substance of nonviolence and compassion in ourselves. Then everything that we would do will be in the direction of nonviolence. As Thict Nat Hahn says in that wonderful book, Being Peace, when we practice ahimsa, which is the word for nonviolence, we have to practice it within ourselves. We have to be nonviolent towards ourselves, too. He says to work for peace means to quell the violence inside of us first. This is the basis then for Thict Nat Hahn's celebrated books on mindfulness. Mindfulness. Mindfulness training takes on this look inside and this responsibility for coming to a peaceful place inside. And it takes on responsibility for the world that we're creating outside of ourselves too. Because it's not about blaming others no matter what they do. It really harkens back to what we've learned in Christian teachings too, that Jesus said, love your enemies. Turn the other cheek to those who are despitefully using you. That really makes us think about the civil rights movement, doesn't it? And have any of you seen the movie Selma yet? Yeah, it's really difficult to realize what all of the people going through the civil rights movement went through in taking up this cause of love this way, because they were determined to manifest a different world, and they knew it was their responsibility. In 1966, when Thict Nat Hahn was making one of his many trips to the United States to try to stop the war and speak to different dignitaries about it, he finally got to meet with Dr. Martin Luther King in person after he'd written him several letters. And again, when they met, Thict Nat Hahn urged Dr. King to not remain silent, but to come out publicly against the war. It was a very important meeting for Dr. King. Some months after his meeting with Thict Nat Hahn, on April 4th, 1967, exactly 1 year before he was killed, King finally did come out publicly against the war in Vietnam, giving one of his most eloquent, powerful, and prophetic speeches. He spoke at the famous large Riverside Church in New York City, and his speech was entitled, Beyond Vietnam. It was sponsored by the organization called Clergy and Laymen Concerned About Vietnam. So King stood up there, silent no more, against the fervent wishes of many of his closest advisors and colleagues in the movement. They didn't want him to do this. But Martin Luther King had been deeply touched by the stories of Thict Nat Hahn. And he came out powerfully against the war in Vietnam publicly. And this is how he started out. He said, "A prophet cannot choose his causes. A prophet cannot choose his causes." As a result of his opposition to the war, King faced tremendous opposition, not only as expected from the political and military establishment, but also from within the civil rights movement. They started to criticize him and not trust him. Why? Because people understandably feared that King's opposition to the war would divert the attention from the ongoing civil rights movement and the need for the war on poverty in the United States. Well, similarly, but even more ferociously, the press, like the New York Times and the Washington Post, blasted King for coming out against the war. And President Johnson, and J. Edgar Hoover, and others in the federal government not only blasted him, but they quietly let out the dogs. In other words, they unleashed the wiretappers, the CIA, the dirty tricks people. In his astonishing Beyond Vietnam speech, King carefully articulated his reasons for opposing the United States' involvement in the war. But then he went on to say, beyond Vietnam, to describe the larger, deeper patterns that he saw, tying together oppression at home and oppression overseas. He said there's something seductively tempting about stopping there with this discussion about Vietnam and sending us all off in our circles on a popular crusade against the war. I say, yes, we have to enter that struggle of being against the war, but I wish to go on now to say something even more disturbing. The war in Vietnam, King continued prophetically, is but a symptom of a far deeper malady in the American spirit. Our nation is on the wrong side of world revolution. It is with this in mind, King continued, that the words of the late John F. Kennedy come back to haunt me. 5 years ago, my friend said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Think about that again. Kennedy said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. And think about what's going on in our news these days, of the uprisings all over the world. Whose responsibility is it? King went on, increasingly by choice or by accident, this is the role our nation has taken, the role of those who make peaceful revolution impossible by refusing to give up our privileges and pleasures that come from immense profits of overseas investment. Oh, you can see how that was an unpopular statement. I am convinced, King continued, that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, then the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. What we need, King insisted, is a true revolution of values. Indeed, he lamented, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. It's 40 years later, my friends. Well, exactly 1 year later, after Martin Luther King said this, he was dead. Exactly 1 year later. From the mountaintop, he had perhaps seen and named too much for his time, if not for ours. Isn't that ironic that it was exactly 1 year? Maybe that was not an accident. Thict Nat Hahn asked Martin Luther King to do something very difficult, didn't he? To expand the borders of his influence, to speak out against something that would make him even more unpopular, something dangerous to speak about. So King considered it deeply. He could not refuse his brother. For other people across the world that were experiencing too the effects of injustice and war. He chose to see beyond Vietnam, and he challenged the people of the United States to question deeply, what kind of world are we manifesting? What do we love? What is our religion all about? Is it about worshiping money and power, or is it a religion of justice and peace? What kind of God do we really worship? What are we willing to do for what we value? I understand when King was assassinated, after the police and FBI arrived at that little apartment, during all the confusion, people were running around and agents were trying to get a handle on what had happened. And one agent informed his superior on the walkie-talkie, there weren't any cell phones yet then, that he had just heard King's wife, Coretta Scott King, say out loud, scream out loud, "Martin's dream will never die." There was, I gather, a pause when the agent superior instructed him to ask Coretta, find out what that dream was. What was the dream? What does it mean for us? I think these are terribly important questions, and finding some sense of their meaning is critical for us in these challenging times, when the stakes are even higher 40 years later. Martin Luther King's dream, what is it? Well, you could sum it up in one, maybe two words: radical love. Love is the great dream of the real possibility of transformation on this planet. King held that dream, Thict Nat Hahn held that dream, yes, Gandhi, Tolstoy, Mother Teresa, Jesus, so many of us have held that dream that change is possible for ourselves and for our blessed damaged world. Of course, that word dream can be as vague as the word love. We can get all airy-fairy and we can speak about our dreams and aspirations without being grounded enough. As the old Japanese saying goes, vision without action is a dream. You hear that? Vision without action is a dream. But the saying goes on to say, action without vision is a nightmare. So we've got to have both. Undergrounded action, action disconnected, ungrounded action, action disconnected from some great and clarifying dream or motivation of love, truly understood, is at best wasted energy, right? And at worst, a horror. There's lots of dreams that go around and lots of visions, but what are they really grounded on? If they're not grounded on this kind of radical love, those visions are like an eagle with only one wing. So today, as we honor these two great visionaries of our life and times, who had dreams and then worked so hard to manifest them, I want to take a moment. Last year I talked about the dream. This year I want to talk about the manifestation. It's time, you know. With certain knowledge, love isn't without manifestation, here and now. So let's focus on how does love manifest, really. When Dr. King spoke of love, he meant agape. The Greeks had better handle on how to slice and dice the word love, separating out the love from family, the love of friends or erotic love, from this other kind of love, this spiritual love. It's a part of all those other kind of loves, and yet it's greater than it. So in his doctoral dissertation, King said the only adequate symbol for God's love is agape. He would speak of it as something uncaused, spontaneous, transformative, that's in everything. When we rise to love on the agape level, he wrote, we love people not because we like them. Think about the Selma movie. Think about the civil rights movement. We love people not because we like them. Not because their attitudes or what they're doing appeals to us, but we love them because God loves them. Then we rise to the position of loving the person who does the evil deed while hating the deed that the person does. So the question about both Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn that's put before us in this critical hour is, what kind of love are we living? And what kind of world are we creating? If we want power, peace, and stability, things we say we want in the world, then we need to be about the work of manifesting them. Yes, there's individual change that we need to do, but then there's this work. There's the stuff that we each have to do in the world. When we speak of qualities in our spiritual journey, we've got to take the time to do what Thict Nat Hahn was doing and what Martin Luther King were doing, of taking our individual journey to the collective consciousness, to the collective level. In New Thought circles, we often affirm that we are creators of our reality, but I think too many New Thought churches are just about individual healing. However, anytime there's a shift anywhere, it's true, a shift on the deepest inner level does bring a shift everywhere. The microcosm is the macrocosm. But it gets to the point where we've really got to think about how we're manifesting our beliefs, right? I've been a professional diversity trainer in the past, and when I trained all about the isms that get in the way of peace, like racism, sexism, heterosexism, classism, all the isms have both an attitudinal portion and a systemic structural part, right? We know this, right? They have both an attitude within, and then there's a structural system that holds them in place. So you can't get rid of an ism, like these races and classes and things, without working on both levels. Working to change our inner attitudes and things in the world. On the one hand, if we just remove obstacles and don't change our inner minds, then nothing really changes. It's also true that if we just change our inner world but ignore the structures of oppression, that doesn't work either. We've got to be able to work on both fronts. It's all a matter of degree, this microcosm thing. Like, just think about dogness, for example. Is a Doberman more of a dog than a Chihuahua? No, I don't think so. Especially because I have a Chihuahua. Everything we see, there is an essence of what we don't see. So what I'm saying is, whether it's a great big giant dog or a little tiny dog, the essence of dogness is still there. There's the essence of chairness, for example. You know, chairs are very important to us as humans. And chairs exist all over the world in all cultures. There's the essence of chairness, and it's always going to come forth because we humans need to sit down. If anybody made a decree that you had to stop making a thing like a chair, there would still be this divine desire inside of humans for a chair that doesn't go away. We need to pay more attention to the quality itself than the particular physical manifestations. Too often we're trying to manifest things that we don't have a feel for in our heart space. We're trying to manifest things that we actually are resisting. For example, if money were a person, and yet you said all the terrible things that you say about your relationship with money, like, you know, we say we want to manifest money sometimes, but then we say to money, how come you never show up? How come you're always leaving me? You're always over there with someone else. You're in love with someone else and not with me. Nah, 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 nah. So we think that money's going to come while recording it with that kind of attitude. No, money's not going to come bring us flowers when we're saying those kind of things to us. So we've got to clean up our act, you know. We've got to clean up our speech. We've got to talk nice about the things that we want. So it's not that money's bad, it's just about the lust after money that's gotten our country all messed up, jealous and greedy. We need to have money to do good with it. We need to befriend manifestation, in other words. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. That's what we're getting at here, right? Let's just look at manifestation a little bit deeper. The definition of manifestation is an event or object that clearly shows or embodies something else, especially a theory or an abstract idea. Did you know that? That's how manifestation is defined? An event or object that clearly shows or embodies something else. Manifestation is just the representation of something else. We make the manifestation as if it's the thing itself. It's not about the manifestation's object. It's about the representation of something else. So what is behind the thing that you want to manifest? When I looked up manifestation in Webster's dictionary, it also said, check out the word sign. So sign is an object, quality, or event whose presence or occurrence indicates the probable presence or occurrence of something else. A sign, indicating the probable presence of something else. I can't emphasize this enough, what I'm trying to get across. When we talk about manifestation, don't make it about the stuff. Make it about the evidence of the spiritual quality behind it, the presence behind it. To bring into the realm of the tangible what already exists somewhere else is a different topic. We are here to manifest the essence of sustainability, the essence of love, the essence of joy, the essence of peace, not just the particular relationships or particular thing. There's something more than that. The spiritual definition of manifestation says it's a formula. Some things already exist in consciousness, in other words, but we have to bring it to the table so that we can see it. Are you with me? You hear what I'm saying? Manifestation in the spiritual dictionary is like it's a mystical formula. Something already exists in consciousness, like chairness. But we've got to bring it into consciousness. We've got to do something to manifest it into form. There is always some verb connector here, to do, something that we have to do. Some activity we have to engage in that merges us with the allness. So that's where our recognition of what already exists conspires with an ever-present, tangible possibility. Think of the word conspire. We make it into a negative, conspire. But con just means with, and inspire to breathe in. So to breathe with, to conspire with spirit and with one another, to bring forth from these other dimensions things that already exist into form. There's an ever-present tangibility. It's perceptible all around us. We can see the evidence of spirit in the manifest world everywhere. I don't get it when people say they don't believe in God, because everywhere we look, there's evidence that there's something miraculous going on. If it's not God, I don't know what you want to call it, but I think the evidence is all around us that some unseen presence is working through and manifesting into this realm. We can see and feel and breathe it and smell it all around us. It's just that there's something that we have to do to bring it forth. Any affirmative prayer that's effective covers this ground. In spiritual mind treatment, like we do in the New Thought tradition, the prayer goes through 5 stages. Number 1 is recognition. That's what we're talking about here, recognizing the spiritual essence exists. Then unification with it, merging with it. Number 3, realization, which is like manifesting it. Number 4, thanksgiving. And number 5, releasing it, because we didn't really, we weren't the origin of it, so we don't possess it. So there's a reason why prayer starts with recognition, because recognition is the place where our acknowledgement reflects spirit. You hear that? We elevate our consciousness to the awareness that there's something bigger and greater than just the material things we see. There's something bigger and greater, the dream. Coretta Scott King, when Martin Luther King was laying before her dead, said, "The dream lives on." Something bigger. Consciousness never leaves. Everything is energy, and she knew that in that moment. So energy cannot be destroyed. It's neither created nor destroyed. It only changes form. The dream lives on, she screamed. Everything that has ever been thought is hanging out in the ethers, We're making collective deposits into this sort of psychic bank. Every moment of every day, deposits go into the collective psychic bank. And in that moment, she was putting a deposit in the psychic bank by saying, "The dream lives on." Those were her words that rang out across the country. This psychic bank is a very special bank, because at any point we're not only withdrawing from the bank, but we're depositing into it too. And the more vibrations on one chord, the louder it gets, Like one person sings a note and that's beautiful, but then when 15 people sing it in a choir, it's really beautiful with all of the harmonies. And then when 5,000 people sing the same note, exponentially something starts to happen. This is the good news and the bad news of this year of 2015, the year of the sheep. Chords are being sounded loudly, with many thousands of people sounding them. We've got to be very conscious of the note we are singing, what we're putting forth, what we're standing in agreement with, because, as far as energy is concerned, what we focus our intention on, even if we don't like it, but if you're focusing all your attention on it in a worried or fearful way, you're standing in agreement with it. We don't pretend it does not exist, but we don't want to bury our attention in it. When you see the difficult things on the news, don't go into fear and worry. Focus your attention on fear and worry, and you're giving that your energy. And we end up colluding with the very things that we don't want to. With that type of thinking, we've got to, as Martin Luther King said, go beyond Vietnam. You get it? That's what he was saying. Think beyond it. Go on to the dream. In the dream, we focus beyond Vietnam, beyond Afghanistan, beyond Iraq, beyond the poverty, beyond the drug addiction, beyond everything. We focus on the dream. If you're worried about homelessness, in other words, start imagining safe places where the homeless can rest. Join forces with others to do something about it. Pain pushes until vision pulls. Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn were telling us we are never stuck, no matter how dark it seems, despite appearances, because it got created out of consciousness, and consciousness can uncreate it. We can create a world that is just and fair, where there's enough for everybody, they told us. It is possible if we're determined to see agape manifest. Not just buy into it at the idea level, but like the idea level of chairs, the idea level of agape. Like, oh, that's a nice idea. We've got to start building some chairs. We've got to do the work in our own community of this radical kind of love, in our own families, in our own world. In this society, we're taught to play the game of musical chairs. Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn call us to admit this, that the game is rigged. Part of the game itself is that there are not enough chairs for everybody. We're busy bumping people out of the way because we don't want to be the one left standing. Each round another chair as it's taken away. We're being taught that the way out is to learn to bump better, to make sure that us and our families are not the ones left standing. That is not the way out. The real way out is build more chairs. Manifest. Make sure everybody has a chair and stop the game. Let's pray together. We give thanks, God, for this moment in time, because something is calling us higher than we've ever been called before. Something's calling us deeper than we've ever been called before. We feel it, but we don't even know what it is. It's too big to be named. And it's not local. It's a call that's taking place everywhere. People all over the planet are feeling it. People in Egypt, people in Iraq, people in Indonesia. All over the world, we're hearing you. Thank you, our great way showers, Martin Luther King and Thict Nat Hahn. We say thank you. Thank you for the courage that you had. Thank you for your spiritual journey. We thank you, our Creator, our Mother, Father, God, for our lives. We thank you for uplifting us through so many examples. We thank you that you've tangibly held our hand in the darkest hour when we've read Martin Luther King or heard Thict Nat Hahn's poetry. Thank you for making a way when there seemingly is no way in our lives. Thank you for our wonderful, innovative technology that helps us to see people all over the world who are having this faith that there is a way, that there is a better world. I'm so thankful for all the ways that we are able to connect in this hour, along with other people all over the world. I'm calling forth health. There's a higher truth of health than has ever been discerned. I call forth health for our individual bodies. Every single cell is happy and well, and health for our collective consciousness. I call forth peace in the midst of the storms that are brewing. Are you with me? Say amen. I call forth clarity in the midst of the confusion out there. I call forth reconciliation for estrangement in our lives. There is only one of us here, and spirit is never divided against itself. We live in the overflow, the abundance, and I'm calling forth prosperity right here and right now in our lives. In the depths of our bodies and in the world, we have a divine right to manifest what is existent in the divine thought, agape, peace, abundance. I'm saying thank you, God, to all the prophets and the shamans and the goddesses and the sheikhs and the priests and the mystics and every tradition who have left us such an incredible pathway to follow. Thank you for the angels who guard our lives and guide our steps every day. Thank you that they're guiding our children's steps. Thank you for those for whom we grieve right now. May they rest in peace. And I pray for the military and the police all over this world. May they use their power and might in a way that empowers and heals our world. Say amen to that with me. God, we respect your sovereignty. We respect your plan for us. It's a grand and glorious day today, Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday day, as we bring forth this vision of health and joy and aliveness. We commit again to manifesting. We trust in the divine truth, the divine order, the divine right action that is moving in us right now and moving in this world. And all we have to do is get out of the way and allow it to be so. And so it is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Let's have Donna come up and sing a song for us as we take our offering.